Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel in conjunction with a live stream, dual stream with Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you guys here on this Saturday evening. It is November 1st, 2025, and we are live. Yes, absolutely. This is not, do not change the channel. Do not adjust your screens. It is my face in front of you. So good to see all of you guys joining me with you tonight. Look, just to let you guys know, the Jaybefaunt channel is also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there on Sundays for the JB Show, as well as Thursdays for the Sabby and JB Show, and here regularly on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps me out to be able to reach more people, help to activate, encourage, and organize. So thank you so very much for that. Also, if you guys have not already, you guys can also subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. Gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. So you guys have that there. And also, if you would like to, you can also ask me any questions, and then I will give you a video response through QBounty at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt. I also do video reactions as well. If you guys have any videos that you want me to react to there as well. Thank you guys so very much. Everybody that's inside the chat, good to see you. I hope you guys are staying warm. It has been a little bit chilly this morning, but like true Florida fashion, it said the sun came out and said, ha ha, here I am. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to be talking to a couple of activists and coaches that we're going to be discussing this particular subject with you. And this is a very exciting thing that they're doing. This is something that I love to see happen in more cities. And so those of you who are in the organizing space, I think that you will get a lot out of this. Even if you're non-organizer, I think this is something that you can encourage and help to be able to grow as well. So let's get a look at the thumbnail, and then we shall get into the discussion. So we are going to be talking about the People's Gym, where we're talking to the coaches for Praxis Submission Fighting. So first, I'm going to be having on Coach Frankie, who is Abstract PDP instructor, Praxis instructor, trained in submission grappling, jiu-jitsu, judo, striking, experience coaching and competing in combat sports. And then Coach Milo is a member in Operations and Strategies Committee and director of the People's Defense Program, and also one of the instructors of Praxis Submission Fighting, trained in grappling, jiu-jitsu, judo, and striking. And then we'll be coaching and in competitions, beginners and children in combat sports and self-defense, and also an emergency medical technician and working as a security professional. I would like to introduce the coaches to Praxis Submission Fighting, Coach Milo and Coach Frankie. Good to have you guys finally on with me.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you, James.
Guys, it is so exciting to have you guys on, especially for this particular type of mutual aid that you're actually doing. And I want to emphasize that it is a type of mutual aid, especially when it comes to helping out the communities. And so, you know, one of the things that I wanted to talk about in regards to the mutual aid is the idea behind opening a gym. Like, where did that start? How did it come about? And if you guys can expound on the necessity of why a gym is needed.
Yeah, so I'll start. First of all,
either Milo or Frankie.
There's a slight delay.
Small delay, but we'll work through it. Yeah, so we're both part of REAL, that is the Revolutionary Education and Action League, which is a Marxist-Leninist organization made up of working class people with the goal of building coherent and real political structures in our communities. We do that through a variety of events. We provide material resources, political education, and skill development to the community because we understand that the current systems and all those working within it, right, cannot and will not provide for us. So those events look like our edu-forums, zine releases, movie nights, and even our weekly programs, which is our People's Free Kitchen every Sunday out there cooking and and serving meals to the community. And every Saturday, we're out at the People's Freedom Farm tending to our own produce. And that's actually where we teach our PDP self-defense classes. So I'd say that's those classes is where that emerged. And I'll let Mila talk more about that.
Yeah, so you asked a bit about like how this kind of ties into mutual aid, and it's important to kind of introduce people, if they don't know already, to the Revolutionary Education and Action League, as Frankie did. And one of the programs of REAL is the People's Defense Program. This is essentially an outgrowth of that. So the purpose of the People's Defense Program was that we understand, of course, that the systems that are in place are not designed to protect us working class people. They are designed to be a reactionary force anytime people try to change things. We, as REAL, are committed to building a strong working class movement. So that means like strong institutions of care, strong political lines, as well as strong in their constitution. So we also have seen, as a critique of the left, like faceless affinity groups and adventurous tactics. We understand that is behavior that the feds promote, right? So we, along with the rest of our programs, built this to be legitimate for any normal people, right? And this helps build an apparatus of safety to protect the systems of care that we've developed, right? Our mutual aid systems, as people know them, right? Now, does that answer your question? I could get more into like the history of the program and like what we've done, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I would like to get into, the history of the program, because one of the things that this kind of reflects upon me is a lot of people, we talk about the Black Panther Party, right? But what was the actual title? And a lot of the audience, they may not know the actual title of the Black Panther Party was the Black Panther Party for Defense. And so really, it was really in the name to defend the community and help them to defend themselves. And so this sounds like, really just an emulation, or almost kind of like an homage to that form of really building community and resistance to oppression that you guys are doing here.
Yeah, so to talk about like the deeper political history, of course, like a lot of our political line as REAL stands to remember and uphold that history of when the working class was a strong movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea of like a leftist these days, unfortunately, is one of like weak-willed and like not one to be taken seriously. But we understand there's a history there that has been, hidden from the people and of course whitewashed, and that's the history of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, the Young Lords, their coalition that they formed, the history of even the rural white working class, right? The history of the miners and the rednecks that fought battles with the government for rights that we enjoy today, like labor rights that we enjoy, right? And that is a distinctly a communist history as well, and that is one that we speak to and uphold as REAL and in this program. The history of the program itself too, it started a couple years ago, about 2 years ago now, with internal trainings. And then we began, once we opened the People's Freedom Farm in Pine Hills, we had then a space to offer it to our community and our volunteers. And then eventually, right, as we, developed our skills and a larger curriculum, we moved past just submission grappling for self-defense. We started doing emergency medical classes, de-escalation classes, pepper spray training, all these things. And now for the past year, we've had that consistent programming.
Wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. And so as far as, when it comes to the different programs you guys are going to be offering, what type of programs will you be offering to community members who wish to train?
Yeah, so for programming at the gym, Praxis Submission Fighting, we're gonna have submission fighting, which is basically striking and grappling. Those who know about combat sports, very similar to MMA, without the specific, because MMA is a sport, so without that specific sport rule set and the particular environment of a cage, right? We're not gonna have a cage when we start, but striking and grappling, and then submission grappling. So that's the whole fighting engagement from standing to takedowns and submissions without striking, distinct from any like particular sport rule set as well, right? So we can kind of get in more to like what that means, like stylistically, I guess. It was one of your questions. We'll also have classes for like women's or like non-men's classes as well, integrated within it. Every week. And then, of course, we are going to kick off, once we are established within the first year, a free kids program for the kids of Paramore, where we'll be established. And then, Frankie, if you like the specific times, I guess.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of...
Go ahead.
So one of the things that I was thinking about was a lot of parents, especially when I was, I'd say probably in my teenage years, a lot of parents were suddenly like struck with this feeling of, oh my God, stay indoors because you never know who's out there. People are picking up kids and things like that. But one of the things I think is important is teaching kids as well how to defend themselves if in case, right? Because as we experience more social unrest, we see more, crimes of desperation and lack of opportunity happening because of the system. People need to learn how to defend themselves, including some of the most vulnerable. And so I think that is a brilliant idea to expand it to not just adults, but to kids. Those of us who, may be weaker in some ways. I know I need some training too, somebody kick my ass and take my name. But anyways, but I think it's important that, it's important to train kids as well so that they're able to be better protected. But it's also a sense of community. And so that aspect I also think is really important too, because you're not only bringing people together to defend themselves, but it's also a camaraderie, right, within the community you guys are building too.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of speaking a little bit about our backgrounds, we before deciding to move at the opportunity with Real to expand the People's Defense Program and open Praxis. Both Frankie and I were coaches at a local MMA gym here in Orlando, where we trained and worked full time and ran several programs. And one of them was the kids program. And it was very interesting seeing like the class character of like the kids and parents involved. And it was very tough. Like we were constrained in a lot of ways that we won't be with Praxis. And namely that is like having a deeper kind of like political goal, a deeper goal of community that wasn't there for that business. Right. And that's something we're very excited for. Cause like Frankie could probably talk more about like the differences between like, training different ages of kids. Right. We had parents who they just want their kid to learn how to listen to them, right, rather than develop like actual skills, right? They wanted their kids to just know the names of moves and be able to do them. Like it was all aesthetic, right? There was nothing. We were working with, a lot of constraints like that barred like meaningful development of kids as human beings.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you talk about like this being a space for community too, because that is I think something that's lacking in a lot of other gyms. Like there is a particular barrier to access to training, and a big barrier is money, right? Like this is like a commodified thing. So like it's like a useful skill, right? But it's still like it's something that like people aren't able to do, and there's a particular culture around it, I think, that also makes it hard to access, and it's just a particular culmination of things that sometimes make these gym spaces very void of that community, which I think will be unique to our gym because of like the base and foundation that we're starting with.
A lot of bootlickers, like they have a monopoly on, combat sports, right? It's unfortunate. And if they're not like straight up bootlickers, a lot of them are like weeaboos, like they want to cosplay that they're samurais or something, right? And they love this weird like kind of culty culture of, bowing to some guy, like some picture on the wall, and like these like weird like kind of like mysticisms around it, which like I'm kind of a nerd too. Like I love the history of all this stuff. Like that's an interest of mine. It brought me into this stuff in a lot of ways, but it's not really conducive to like a strong community. It's not really conducive to like growing a lot of martial arts in a lot of ways, or making it accessible to people that it has been kept from it. Like, the history of like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's one of the first things I started in was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We literally bowed to a picture of a guy who was a member of the Brazilian fascist party. Like there's a deep history there. I was homeless when I first started jiu-jitsu, and I paid a lot of money to buy the gi or the kimono that you have to wear, right? Back in 1920s Brazil, that was a major obstacle that kept it in a different class. And there were other forms of martial arts that came to like compete against that, right? Like catch wrestling and lucha libre. So there's a strong class history behind these martial arts, and so that's what we're trying to uphold. Like the working class combat sports and martial arts history, right? And so we, just like Real, and our programs are developed out of a criticism, a ruthless criticism of everything that is, right? And trying to make it better. This gym is the same, right? Like again, Frankie talked about the barriers to access, the weird culty behavior, the financial aspect of it, the like, if you think about combat sports, when you step in, like we saw a lot of like women and smaller people come in that weren't just ready to scrap. They'd come into class, get their, I don't know if I curse, they'd get their butt whooped, and then they would leave. They wouldn't join. There's this kind of like toxic dude culture, if you will. We want to build like a revolutionary masculinity, that is, beyond beyond gender, if you will. That's for everyone that wants to come and train. And a lot of these things are what make us unique. We're a socialist project, and we will have just a whole different dynamic and culture than most other gyms.
Yeah. One of my next questions was, I see you guys are focused on training, but what about things like nutrition? Because it's one thing to be able to train, but it's another thing if you're, kind of dragging because you decided to be like me yesterday and have, a bunch of chicken tenders and French fries. So are you guys going to be talking about nutrition and why that's so important so that people can continue to build themselves up as well?
Yeah, well, I think an important thing as coaches, and this is something that like drives like our coaching methodology to begin with, but understanding that like there are a lot of components and factors that affect a person's ability to train, a person's ability to develop skills, right? So that what part of that includes nutrition, part of it includes like if everyone comes in with a particular foundation and one that changes every day, one day you might get less sleep, something happened in your personal life, you're going to show up differently every day to practice. And I think that those individual constraints like affect a person's like ability, like their day the way they show up that day, right? But it's also not something that I think we'll have a culture to be able to like help to be able to take people as they are every day, right? But it's not necessarily, we're not going to be like creating meal plans for people. That's not our expertise. Our expertise is in like the skill development of combat sports. So that's what we'll be focusing on. We're going to encourage people to, greater their ability to do things, get stronger, get faster, eat better, right? But that's not where our expertise is. So that's not like a service we'll provide. But we at the least, we're not going to be, most other gyms, they encourage like these insane weight cuts for in the name of like competing at lower weight classes. They encourage the use of like, they will offer you when you walk into a gym performance enhancing drugs. It's crazy. But yeah, so I think it'll be a different culture. It'll be a different, we're not going to have like those sort of ideas that are very like normalized in other gyms. But again, it's not a particular service or thing that I think will be able to provide to people at this time. Have anything?
Yeah, again, it goes back to like the
Great.
different like
One of
sorry, yeah, it goes back to the different like coaching dynamic that we'll have, right? Like there will be kind of an authority behind like us as coaches and directing our environment and making sure like boundaries are squared away and that people are protected, but also like any other coach, whether they have an expertise or not, a lot of them, like people will come to them for all types of life advice just because they're you know, jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai coach, whether they have anything good to give you or not. So we will have like the humility to be like, that is not my area of expertise, you know, and not potentially like use our status to just like tell people whatever we think, if that makes sense, right? Like if we don't know something, we will have the humility to admit that, which is unique from my experience with coaches.
Yeah, I think boundaries is a good word too, because it's like, oh, you didn't eat it all today and you're trying to train for 2 hours? Like, no, let's get something to eat first, like fuel yourself. We're not going to have anybody passing out, hurting themselves. You know, the whole idea is we're trying to keep people safe.
Yep. I used to coach a competition team, and I remember, and Frankie can attest to this, we had people, you know, come into trainings, you know, feeling like crap. And I'd be like, did y'all eat today? And they'd be like, nope. And then so I'm like,
get them a meal.
I would go, I cook them something up, and I'm like, you're going to eat before we train. It's going to cut into training time, but like, you're not going to get out of this experience anyway. So it's very important that we at least have a genuine like care for our students.
Yeah, that's actually very beautiful. I appreciate that. One of the things that I also would like to get into is how does this help people who have different disabilities, and will you be able to work with folks that have disabilities?
Yeah, of course. So we, through the People's Defense Program at the farm, as you've seen, it's open to all. We have all our volunteers that, you know, come and have done the farm work or just show up for the self-defense classes, have taken our class. Us as coaches, we have experience with students with different disabilities. And first thing is that like we actually like have to understand our students, know what they're working with. And then from there we can be like, all right, anytime that you have to like sit out, take a break, anytime something hurts, you should feel no shame. I tell people, you're not allowed to tell me sorry when you have to sit out. I don't want any kind of shame around you listening to your body and not getting hurt, right? So we've had people with different disabilities do what they can, and then they go sit out and jump back in whenever they're ready, right? There's no like, I've trained at places where like, you know, if I want to go get a sip of water, I have to go and bow to the master and be like, ask and get me a sip of water when I'm a grown ass adult. So nothing like that. So for one, that again, like back to like our culture of like genuine care, support for the growth of our students and our comrades, our previous experience with students with disabilities, just an open, shameless communication about those things, but also we have to balance representativeness and accessibility, right? Because we're training people to be proficient at fighting. We want to prepare them to be able to fight and defend themselves. That in and of itself is not, fighting is not an accessible thing, unfortunately. That's just a fact. But unlike other places where they try to uphold, again, this like mythos around their martial art, where like, you know, unfortunately size and strength does matter. It can get balanced out with skill, but those things do matter. And the way that we coach, which we'll get into more about the pedagogy, we want to be as representative to a fight as possible. So that means we're not just going to teach things that are going to be instant gratification. We're not just going to do repetitive drilling, right, with no resistance. They're going to get that actual experience with resistance, and it's going to be hard. Even for people without disabilities or obvious disabilities, it's tough. You know, people get in and just, they don't got good cardio and they're super gassed. I see people who, like, we would understand, you know, culturally as like, oh, they look super fit. And, you know, we go with them, they can't last 5 minutes. You know, it's going to be hard for everyone across the board. So we'll just be real about that. And for some people, that's why we also offer more than just hand-to-hand self-defense. We offer the pepper spray training, de-escalation, and of course, emergency casualty care classes as well. Because, you know, for some people, it's like, all right, you're not going to be able, you know, even if you get really good, right? Like, I'm just not as big as some people, right? Some people are also like on steroids and stuff. They're just crazy jacked. They can just crush my head. So that's where like other tools to equalize the playing field come in. And then we're real about that. And we let them know, like, hey, this is just your individual constraints, right? Get a gun. I love to do that.
Great point. Great point. See, this is why I like you guys. So another question that I have is, so you guys already spoke about the different techniques and styles that you'll be incorporating as far as helping the community. And then you guys also said you guys will be opening up to children within about a year. So if you guys can get also into the pedagogy, sorry, I can't talk today, but if you guys can get into that a little bit as well. So, you know, I'm actually quite curious to get into that as well. Is behind what your methodology and what you're trying to do as far as opening up more dialogue as well within not just being able to defend themselves, but also coupling it with also revolutionary thought and praxis.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think an important thing, pedagogy is just a fancy way of saying like the our teaching method, the way that we coach, right? And I think we have a particular approach, but I think an important thing to understand is like how combat sports are currently taught. And I think do you want to talk about how they're currently taught?
Yeah, so the way that most combat sports are currently taught is you walk into, you know, your class and, you know, maybe you'll do some kind of like warm up, right? If you do like grappling, they'll have you do like weird stuff on the ground. We call like shrimps and forward rolls and, you know, get a little bit of a sweat in. And then you'll go into, you know, if you're doing striking, maybe some like bag work and pad work. For grappling jiu-jitsu, you'll do some like, you know, techniques. You'll do, again, both arts with no resistance, just kind of getting into some step-by-step technique, drilling it with no resistance. And then maybe if you're lucky, like some kind of like game at the end, or like positional kind of sparring for grappling, for striking, maybe some kind of game after some pad work, some bag work. And then, you know, maybe you sparred after that, or maybe you didn't because you're a beginner, you don't get to spar for 6 months, or you're not. I know there's boxing clubs that like you have to pay for a higher tier to be able to spar. Some grappling schools, again, you don't spar until you've like been doing it for however amount of time. But then, you know, you are assured by the sweat on your brow and, you know, your coach's words that the $150 to $200 of your monthly pittance that you've spent is worth it because you're learning the fundamentals and, you know, you're actually developing these skills. So that's how most combat sports are taught these days.
Yeah, largely the idea is that a coach who's like, you know, learned all the things, they know all the things, they will teach you like explicitly exactly the correct right thing to do. and they will show you that thing, and then you'll try and do it, usually against someone who's not trying. They're just letting you try and practice, do the thing correctly, right? And
Correctly.
yeah, and then they'll critique your technique and try and perfect your form to be whatever their idealized version of this is. And our approach comes sort of in direct contradiction with this idea that there is even a correct, perfect way to do something. We understand that not every movement problem, so not every like fighting experience is the same. It's never going to be the same, right? Every dynamic is different. Me fighting Milo versus me fighting you, James, versus you guys fighting each other, all going to be different, right? So the solutions, the things that we do to, come out the winner of that exchange or defend ourselves in that exchange are going to be different. And those solutions can't be imparted top down. They emerge from those like actual changing conditions. And so this approach, like this is something that's like emerging and developing within submission grappling right now, but it clicked with us really fast because of its parallels with the philosophical underpinning that we have within real as well. We understand we are materialists, which means we understand that matter precedes thought, that form precedes essence. So we know that your idea of how to do a perfect thing and me telling you that thing, me giving you the thought, the idea of how to do that perfect thing, doesn't mean that you can just do it with your body, right? That the way to actually do something, you learn it through the movement. You learn it like within the actual conditions, within like the actual movement. And that those movements come from the conditions. They don't come from your head. And so, and then we also understand that things are dialectical. They're always moving, they're always changing, and there's a particular relationship that we as a person have with the person that we're fighting, and within like the particular task, if it's a sport rule set or whatever, if you're on the street, it changes like what we can and can't do, and so how our movements are going to look differently, and that's when you get different styles coming out of different sports and things. And so our approach, it's called the ecological approach. But the big idea is that we understand that the movements have to develop within, you develop what you train, right? So we try and create the environment as close to fighting as we can, and we constrain it in a way, because learning is a constrained search. We constrain it in a way for people to search and find their own solution, and for them to actually emerge under resistance doing the actual thing, which is, attempting to fight or with resistance against another person.
Yeah, you really hit it on the head there. To really distill that back in like the context of, how things are trained predominantly versus like how our practice design will be is, again, that where there's, explicit technical instruction, there's drilling without any resistance whatsoever. A Praxis class will be 100% live. That doesn't mean that we're just sparring the whole class. We use something called the constraints-led approach, so that, again, as Frankie was talking about, we constrain certain elements with tasks or maybe the environment, so that you can see the thing that we're trying to teach you. Your body can actually feel what's called the affordance of it. If you want to learn how to like dodge a punch effectively, the only way to learn that is a punch has to come at you, and you have to become attuned to that relationship, that like fighting dialectic, if you will. Your body has to attune to it. It's like, I use and it's in the literature even, this like analogy of the traditional model of like psychology for movement is that, the coach tells you the thing, you download and store it in your brain, and then you store it through like doing it with no resistance in the perfect way that the coach tells you to, and then that is translated to like your body in the moment. Whereas for us, we understand that it's not the CEO supercomputer brain that is like generating the value. It is the laborers. It is your body in relationship with your environment and your opponent, and even your own like individual physiology, that you learn to attune to someone trying to beat you up.
Yeah. And it's really interesting too, that concept that these things aren't learned like top down, like from your brain to your body, came from a Soviet scientist, actually, Nikolai Bernstein. We love to talk about that.
We love that guy, Nikolai Bernstein. This is again like proletariat science, you know, in the like submission grappling community, they call it the ecological approach, but we've been just calling it the materialist approach because essentially it is idealism versus materialism. And that's why again it hit so good for us, right? Like this is, I don't credit any coach at this point to like my development in as a coach, as a practitioner of martial arts. I credit it to, you know, like stumbling upon this literature and even my political development for making this so like succinct for me.
Oh, I think you're muted, James. Looks like he's spitting. Right
Yeah,
now,
you're
too.
spitting right now. Oh no.
I'm sorry, I was muted. My apologies. But I was, when you guys were talking about how your body, how the movement, um, kind of moves independently, because you have to learn, it starts in your body and goes to your brain. It kind of reminded me of Dragon Ball Super with Whis teaching about Ultra Instinct, right? So basically body moving, independently of where it actually is, right? So that's the nerdy side of me. Thank you for humoring that part of me. Ask about was, so because you're doing this, of course, resources are absolutely needed for this. And so what type of fundraising are you doing? Are you going to be having a fundraiser soon? When do you expect to have this gym open by, if you can give us that information too?
Yeah, for sure. We actually, next Saturday, so 1 week from now, we're going to be holding the Real Swamp Fest fundraiser at the People's Freedom Farm. It's going to be from 12 to 9 p.m. We're going to have all kinds of events. We'll be hosting a defense challenge there. So if you want to come fight us, the coaches of Praxis Submission Fighting, you can do that. If you defeat us, you can win yourself a month free at Praxis once we're open. But yeah, our fundraiser event, we're going to have a cowboy candy workshop. If you've been to that event before, we'll be making it super yummy. We'll also have an edgy forum that night. What else will be going on? We'll have field games. We'll have a PFK info session for people interested in getting involved and learning more about PFK and what we do through that program. So that'll be next Saturday, the 8th from 12 to 9 p.m. at People's Freedom Farm.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, we have
awesome.
a GoFundMe. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, we have that GoFundMe. You can find it on real.orl on Instagram, Praxis Submission Fighting on Instagram as well. That will be linked in the link trees or bio of those accounts. Anything helps at all. And as far as when we aim to open, that time frame will be between December and January. So the next 2 months, so things are moving.
Awesome. Yes, and this is why it's also pinned to the top of the chat. If anybody hasn't seen, the link to the GoFundMe is pinned to the top of the chat. And also I linked as well the Instagram to Praxis Submission Fighting, so that you guys can go to there. Also, I will be making sure that Real is also tagged in the description down below too, because I think this is one of the things that I think we have to also regard, right? Thinking about a lot of what has happened in the past with a lot of people dealing, and you have a lot of adventurists that are pro empire. You'll have, that racist or that person that has different types of bigotry that will see you and that you can defend yourself, and is absolutely important. And a lot of times we focus on the mutual aid aspect of making sure people are fed, making sure people have toiletries and supplies, things like that. But also defense is also another big thing. And I know I wasn't actually going to mention this, but it was a story that just recently came out. I think it was in Mint Press News, where in Venezuela, the president Nicolas Maduro is actually arming responsible Venezuelan citizens to defend their country against the imperialism of the West. And so, what type of thing are we doing to help our community so that we can defend against, these rogue actors, right? Who are, wanting to threaten us because of our identity, or because, we are feeding people or something like that. So, or just people who may be under the influence of something and we just need to protect ourselves. So I think that's one of the beautiful parts, is making sure that people are safe, and you're trying to instill safety within the community too.
Yeah, for sure. And we have those Saturday classes, and those will continue on, but we need a consistent and dedicated space for that higher level of training. There's just some things we can't do in the grass, and this is going to be something where it's like you can actually be there multiple times a week, getting in that training, developing those like needed skills, and more than it just being a gym, it's something that's going to fund and house our real programs at large, right? So it's just going to grade our capacity in general, and we're looking to legitimize ourselves and entrench ourselves in that community.
Yeah, this again is a unique socialist project. I love that you bring up Venezuela, and that program of arming the people, like that's existed for a while now. And it's funny how like I wish more Americans knew that, especially like anti-socialist Americans knew that, because I feel like they'd be jealous. We in the U.S. uphold the Second Amendment and whatnot against the tyranny of governments. They have armed and trained their populace to answer the call when times like this, when the empire is at its doorstep, with foaming out the mouth aggression, and that is the vision for a strong socialist project too, right? Like mutual aid, like small level, like affinity group stuff. It's attractive. It takes less like commitment, but in real, we've committed to the hard work, right? Like doing this on top of the jobs that we're working. The any like membership funds are going to go into the work that we're doing. Again, like unique to any other normal gym. So I do think this is something that the left in the U.S. can definitely like take inspiration from, and it is the kind of working class movement, not even just left or right. This is a working class movement. This is the kind of organizing that we think is pertinent, right? Because if you have these like mutual aid systems without the discipline and organization to defend it when the pigs come knocking, how strong is that? If you can't provide for the people when things get really bad, then you should start developing that, if you're an organizer out there.
Mhm. Absolutely. Also, here's Reels page as well on Instagram, so you guys can actually take a look at what they have. You guys can see that they also have the zine as well. So this is also, you guys also did that recently. So this is really the 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 crux of real community organizing, is bringing people together. And I just want to thank you guys for bringing something like this to the fore, because I think it's really important. Somebody like myself that desperately needs training in this aspect. I know I knew it, I need it. And so it really would help people like myself to be able to learn how to defend against ourselves. I mean, we live in Florida as well. You have a lot of people who may end up being bigoted, who come after those of us of different identities, different stations in life. And so I think it's important that we, train the community to be able to be protective of themselves as well as others too. And that's a beautiful thing that you guys are doing. And I just want to say how proud I am of Real and People's Free Kitchen, and now Praxis Submission Fighting, for really fighting for the people, because you guys are doing the things that are supposed to be done. And we talk about doing mutual aid. This is what we're talking about. Actually donate, as well as I hope they overwhelm you with donations and in joining, so that we can be able to really usher forth a better future for all of us. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having us. We are honored, especially like we know you from being out there. You've been to the farm, you've seen our classes, you've been to our distribution hubs and everything. So this is a real community and relationship, and we will see you in the gym.
Yeah. Thank you so very much, guys. And I will see you guys at the next Solidarity Hub, and I will also see you guys at the next event next Saturday.
Awesome. Can't wait. Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
All right. Take care, guys. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. All right, guys. So that was Coach Comrade Milo and Coach Comrade Frankie joining us. That was a wonderful conversation, and I hope you guys got a lot out of it. It's linked is pinned to the top of the chat, and I will also put it into the comments down below as well, and it is also linked in the description, so you guys can take a look at that. But look, this is what mutual aid is, and this is what building dual power is, so that we can be able to really have a true community that fights for everyone, not just a small few. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have them on. This is a beautiful opportunity for us here in Orlando, as well as a growing to other mutual aid groups throughout the United States. Look, here's the example. Are you paying attention, and are you emulating? Something to think about. So guys, go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much for being here for this special stream as well. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to this. I apologize for my lagging. I thought I had it solved. I did a test and everything, but for some reason it's just not hitting. So I'm going to have to do some more investigating in that. But one of the things that I will do is I will be going over just quickly over the chats and saying so what some of the people are saying, and then we shall get out of here. So I'm going to check on to see if we have any Rumble rants as well. So we don't have any Rumble rants at the moment, but that is okay. Let me check to see if we have any Kick gifted subs from Kick. Let me see. I don't know why I didn't have it up already. Okay, so looks like we're good on the Kick side. Just checking that. Now let's go into the YouTube side. Let's check and see there. All right, so okay. So David Hunter says we need more guys like you in MMA Strong muscles are difficult. Soft hearts are more difficult. Yeah, the thing is, like, I was at the Fuller Palestine Network Samud School earlier today, and one of the things that was impressed upon me by the doctor she was speaking about anti-imperialism is that you have to have love when it comes. You have to have love for the community, and that includes also having a tenderness, a soft spot in your heart for your fellow human being. And so wanting them to be protected, that means that you have to have a soft spot for your community around you. And so I fully agree. Thank you so very much for that, David. S says everyone needs to be taught how to use their bodies for self-defense at a younger age for empowerment. Thanks, JB. Nice interview. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it very much. Kime says, here's hoping we see more of Milo and Frankie here on JB Show and beyond. Yes, they will not be strangers. They're coming back on. I don't care what they say. They're coming back on. They're going to have to kick my ass to say no. They probably can't kick my ass to say no, but I'm still going to ask. I'm going to beg anyway. So, all right. So, Sombra says we should have Nick as a guest coach for the gym. That would be pretty cool. Let me see. Kime, are they? Oh, that's a good question. I didn't ask. Are they on Twitter? I'll be honest with you. I recommend people not to join Twitter because Twitter is successful. And to be honest with you, the only reason why I'm on Twitter is because I have a channel. Don't join Twitter, guys. Please, for the love of God. But thank you so very, very much for that. So Black Una Griffin says in China, they have free workout equipment everywhere in all neighborhoods for free. And this is the thing. This is what we could have. See, imagine having a health and fitness and wellness program that is ran by Milo and Frankie. Imagine a government where we have something like that, right? This is the thing that we need to think about. Like, what do we have? Let me see here. All right. I think we have, I'm going to go over one more and then we're head on out because I want to make sure that I'm done by 7. All right, guys. So and yes, Sula, I saw that and I was like, I already got that question. I already beat you to it, Sula. All right. And then we will have Ecclesiastes 65:42. I gotta look that up. Ecclesiastes chapter 65, verse 42. It says, good job, Milo and Frankie. Awesome work. So yes, absolutely. They are been doing the damn thing. Appreciate it very, very much. Guys, please go ahead and give a like on your way out. Appreciate it very much. Guys, you are making sure this channel is continuing on. I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to everybody who has contributed to the channel, especially during times like this, because a lot of us are being throttled as we speak. A lot of us are being censored as we speak, and the censorship is real. So it is getting tough out here in these podcast streets. So I just want to thank you guys for continuing to allow us to be able to come into your devices and living rooms, homes, what have you. And with that being said, I want to give a big shout out to the patrons on Patreon, because without you guys, I would not have a channel as well. So we're going to share that right here and right now. So thank you very much to everybody. And here are the tiers. So we're going to thank the people, Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters. We have Comrade, solid much. This was one of the people who I thanked last time, but I will do it again. Leah Tedesco, thank you for becoming a new member on Patreon. Without you guys, we would not be able to do this as well. And also, if you guys would like to, you guys can also subscribe. But my channel is demonetized, so if you like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon and PayPal. And this is for my channel. RBN is monetized, so you guys can always support the channel either through Patreon or through memberships and super chats, what have you. So thank you so very much for that. So everybody, thank you so very much for tuning in to this. I appreciate it. I will be having a big announcement happening in about a week and a half, in about 10 days or so. I'm going to be having a really big announcement, and I'll be excited to be able to give that. We're going to be having some new big things happening with me. So it is going to be exciting. And it's all good stuff, all good stuff. So I cannot wait to tell you guys what's going to be happening in the near future. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Look, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Smoke them if you got them, drink them if you got them, fight them if you got them, right? And thank you guys so much for tuning in. All right. I love you guys for watching. Mwah, forehead kisses. I will see you guys in the next one. And yes, there will be a JB show tomorrow for RBN, so you guys can see my glowing mug once again. I love you guys for watching. Have yourself a great night. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. One,